talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome to View from the West podcast, brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, part of the River Rivals Media Network, the podcast covering Illinois high school football on the western side of the state. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong, joined once again by Mitch Stormer. Mitch, back from Hollywood, back from the land of celebrities. Did you meet anyone famous, or were you the famous one in Los Angeles this weekend?
I wouldn't even say I went to L.A.
Okay.
So I was not in Hollywood. L.A. area, but no, I don't recall seeing anyone famous that I can that I would recognize anyway. But no, had a great time. Thanks to you and to the rest of the crew for holding down the fort. I was able, probably my performance of the season, not to go any further into that discussion, but performance of the season on my part to get the scoreboards up to date. So glad I could help. Certainly had some assistance in that, getting kind of the finals all in just a couple of messages as opposed to me scrolling and trying to find them individually. So once again, a group effort to making the instant reacts work.
Well, I will say I appreciate it. So as you probably caught on, I made a trip out to Anawan because, they only play there once a year. So the game in Anawan, I got to go. I got to be there for that. So I went out to Anawan, and I knew I was going to make the effort to leave at like 8 o'clock to get back home by like 9 so I could really sit down and get scores, get a couple video clips pulled, and then to my pleasant surprise, the scoreboards were already updated when I got home. So, Mitch, I really appreciate it, even from the West Coast, getting things done.
Yeah, it's weird. Trying to get those things done by 7 o'clock as opposed to 10 o'clock. But yeah, nonetheless, got it done. And you guys had a great show. I mean, I think that was even longer than the week before. So we're just setting the standard there on the Instant Reacts. So a great show, and thank you to everyone who joined in.
Yep, of course. The Instant Reacts podcast only available on our YouTube channel live every Friday night at 10:15. If you missed it, go back and check it out on demand right now. We had Toby Vallis from the Farmington Farmers. We had Tony Grip from the Anawan Weathersfield Titans. Both of them got big wins in the Lincoln Land Conference. Obviously, one on the large side, one on the small side. Those are the marquee matchups over there in the Lincoln Land. We also talked to Tyler Whitebread from Erie Prophetstown. They got the big win, kind of a wild game out there against Riverdale. We'll talk about that one in a minute here, but great win for the Panthers, and we'll kind of see how that sets them up moving forward, because I think that's a pretty critical win for them when they're looking at kind of playoffs and if they're going to get there. So that's a nice win there, and it was a lot of fun. The Instant Reacts is always a good time. We got through all the interviews, we got through all the scoreboards, and then we kind of started going off the rails a little bit, but that's kind of the beauty of it. We heard some we heard some good old stories from Brian Stocking, high school official, Mitch. So
yeah, if you haven't tuned into that yet, please do, and it'll make your day go. It'll make 2.5 hours go by pretty quickly.
Yeah, and obviously we want to thank everyone who already subscribes to our YouTube channel. If you're not already, get out there and subscribe. We are getting close. We're getting closer by the minute of our subscriber goal of 750. I haven't caught the actual number recently, but we might be in like the 600 range these days, Mitch.
All right. Yeah, we're getting there. There's still 3 weeks left, at least in the regular season, but still let's keep that trajectory going and get to that 750 mark.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, let's get into our viewpoints. Our viewpoints are brought to you by First Wealth Financial Group. Head to firstwealthfinancialgroup.com to get in touch with their team today. I'll start with you, Mitch. What's your viewpoint this week heading into week 7?
Okay, number one, we are at 612 subscribers on YouTube. So yes, we are getting closer.
There you go.
Here's my viewpoint. I know that wasn't my first instant reacts that I've missed this season. I think that was my second one. But on the one that I miss, we've got camel content. Like, are you kidding me? That's the one I miss. We're talking about camels and helicopters and all this. Like, why? Why is this the week that I had to miss?
There was a lot. Yes, there was a lot happening. And thank you to Ty Taylor for noticing that Wheaton Academy had a camel on the sidelines, and apparently,
what is going on there?
I have no idea. Apparently, the camel is there to give a ride across the field to the teacher of the year at Wheaton Academy. So there you have it. I mean, naturally, that's what has to happen.
Right. Like, they're not indigenous. Where's that thing stay?
That's great. You're asking a lot of good questions. Ty was very excited.
See, this is what I would have been doing on Friday had I been on. I would have been researching this camel as best I could.
Yeah. Ty was very excited. He's a zoo guy, apparently. So he was very interested in this whole happening. So
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
no, that's mine. Yeah, we'll talk more about the games and stuff, but for me, just looking at the week from afar, I couldn't really get past that camel. So
yeah. My viewpoint, I'm also going to stay, a little bit off the beaten trail, a little bit off the field, but I want to give a shout out to Monmouth Roseville and head coach Jeremy Adolphson. So I got a text this morning from Andy Furman, the owner of Godfather's Pizza in Silvis. Apparently, on Friday night after their game at Sherrard, the Monmouth Roseville football team cashed in their Godfather's coupons, and they also ordered a bunch more pizza, had them delivered to Sherrard for the bus ride home. So a perfect way to utilize the Godfather's Pizza and Silvis gift certificates. Get the whole team. The offensive line is supporting the whole team. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And boy, past couple of weeks, those bus rides with Monmouth Roseville must be quite the scene. So shout out to Coach Adolphson and that group having a great season and making some core memories there along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Ton of fun there. So Mitch, we got the Mitch's mentions, of course, we got to get into. I got some mentions of my own. I'll let you go, but
okay.
I got some of my own here this week.
Okay. I'm going to try and name a couple that I haven't. I don't believe I have yet. Certainly, as I say, every single week, we usually have the usual suspects out and about watching games, sending updates. So I'm not trying to not name you, but you know who you are. But this week, I'm going to shout out Aaron McCann. Aaron was all over Anawan, Weathersfield, and Stark County on Friday. Braden in Knoxville sending in the Knoxville updates. And then Jay Flater had all the updates from the Farmington game. So thank you to those, again, who, as always, are making our Friday night job a lot easier by sending in updates that they're there and they can send them in to us so we can follow along.
Yep, truly appreciate it. I love the community that we're building and that, the fans, at every game are helping us out. It's so cool. It's cool to see every week. And you see new names, right? And you see some familiar ones, obviously, but you see new names popping in once in a while, and that's a ton of fun. So I know it's Mitch's mentions, but I have a couple of mentions here. So
okay.
As we've talked about, my son is now a freshman kicker for Davenport Central. And throughout the season, I think some of the coaching staff at Davenport Central has picked up on the fact that his last name's Armstrong, and then Greg Armstrong, the host of View from the West. They've started to put two and two together, because I'm going to be honest, Mitch, I don't like show up at practice and say, "Hi, I'm Greg Armstrong, the host of View from the West podcast."
Right.
Yeah, so they've started to pick up on it. So they listen along. They're very familiar with the show. So I think some of them have some Illinois connections. So shout out to freshman sophomore head coach Ed Beeson, also Garrett Humphrey, Danny Antle, Brady West, and James Sissel. I know at least a couple of those guys have stopped my son at practice and said, "Hey, is your dad do the podcast?" And yeah, he does. So it's cool. It's good to know they're listening on the Iowa side of the river, and we hope to get an Iowa version of this kind of same podcast up and rolling for next year. It didn't quite happen this year. I think we got a little busy and things didn't quite work out, but hoping to get one down the way. But either way, great to have fans on both sides of the river. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. We're I was going to say worldwide, but we're not quite there yet. But we're now into 2 states at least.
I mean, if you look at our Podbean, analytics, there are people listening around the world. There's like 1 and 2 spots around the country, but those might be just robots. I don't know. But anyway, there are.
Shout out to the bots, satisfied listeners.
Exactly. So, all right, Mitch. Well, if we're going to jump in and talk all things high school football on the western side of the state, you know who we got to thank and you know what we got to talk about.
Yep, we're going to be talking a lot about them tonight. But first off, tonight's episode is brought to you by our friends at Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They provide all the same sporting goods services as the big nationwide companies, but with a faster turnaround, and their uniform pricing is a fraction of the cost you are probably used to. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
So if we're talking about Breedloves, we got to give a shout out to Abby for Breedloves. She hooks us up. She keeps us rolling. She keeps us, plugging out some great product. And the time is winding.
She puts up with our ideas. How about that? She makes our dumb ideas come to life. So shout out to Abby and that entire team.
That is the best way to phrase it. You summed it up better than I could have. So I will say, really exciting time right now. Our merch store is open, but the time is winding down. Closes on October 8th. So get in there now. Buy your stuff before Wednesday. Exactly.
So if you're listening right now, it's tomorrow. So get your stuff in tomorrow. By tomorrow.
Yep, Wednesday, October 8th. Store is closing at the end of the day. We got your football merch. We got rivalry merch. Of course, we have the Tecmo Bowl inspired retro looks out there. Find the shirt or the hoodie that you want. Select your team from the list. We also have retro look for the Western Big Six. Mitch, I'm wearing it right now. I love the look of this shirt. The old school Western Big Six, helmets there.
I got that in a t-shirt.
There you go. And now in this store, new to this store, we also have the Olympic Conference. Really, really excited about this. People are nostalgic about Tecmo Bowl the same way they're nostalgic about the Olympic Conference. So we got the merch for them here. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I was able to take a look, and I think I mentioned it before. It looks like there's even some new styles out there. So maybe I know there was like a camo type of hoodie that I didn't see on the first opening of the store. So they're always keeping it fresh, designs and the merch itself. So yeah, if you haven't yet, again, tomorrow night, get your orders in. They'll get them to you pretty quick, ready for playoff season. Get a hoodie. It's going to be cold. And thank you for your support of the show.
Absolutely. So we're sounding the alarm. Right now is the time to buy. The link to the merch store is available in this episode description. We'll also have it pinned up on the top of our X feed. So head over, shop, find the gear you want. Just, we thank you for supporting View from the West and finding some cool merch and wearing it out of games. Again, store closes Wednesday, end of the day, October 8th. So it's great. We really appreciate it. So, all right. Well, we got a lot of football here to talk about, Mitch. Before we get into some of the game action and everything going on, a lot of important stuff to talk about. But I really want to take a step back for a minute and, some off-the-field stuff going on in Rochelle. I want to send out our thoughts and prayers to Rochelle High School and running back Dylan Manning and his family and everyone out there in that community. He underwent surgery on, I believe, Friday night or early Saturday morning to remove a blood clot, to remove pressure from his brain after he collapsed on the sideline at the end of their game against Morris. So just a really scary situation. And we're really pulling for Dylan, and we're really keeping him and his family in our thoughts. Mitch, it's a kid we talked a lot about, last year in playoff time and this year in their matchups against some of our local teams. So we're just really hoping for the best and, hoping to hear about continued improvements and the best possible outcomes in this situation.
Yeah, just a terrible thing there to see on Friday night. But I think you just said it, continued improvements, and that's the updates that we've been getting from the Rochelle social media accounts. And it seems like Dylan is just communicative. He's talking. He even stood up today, which today is Monday night. So it seems like things are progressing. So shout out to the medical staff on the scene there at the field and in the hospital. And again, like you said, thoughts and prayers, fast recovery for Dylan, and we're all pulling for him.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, Mitch, should we get into some of the game results from Week 6 and then start to look ahead at Week 7? So let's start where we always start, in the Western Big Six. We'll pull up the scoreboard. As a reminder to people, if you're watching, or if you're listening along, you can watch on YouTube. We have the scoreboards up. We'll punch them up live so you can kind of follow along with us here. So, all right, Mitch, read us the results from Friday night, and then we'll start talking through kind of where we go from here.
All right, big battle between Quincy and UT. We knew it was going to be. It played out that way. Quincy gets the late 23-21 win over United Township. You had Moline staying up atop this conference with a big 62-7 win over Rock Island. Geneseo defeated Galesburg 38-20, and Sterling continues to roll with a 55-13 win over Alleman.
Yeah, so let's read through some of the numbers here. Moline gets the big win, maybe not unexpected there. They stay undefeated in Western Big Six play, qualifying for the playoffs with their 5th win. Sophomore quarterback Kaysen Ponder, 12 for 16, 185 yards, 3 touchdowns, added another one on the ground. So really great effort from him, the sophomore there for Moline. That defense forcing 5 turnovers, the 3rd straight game where they've allowed 7 points or less. So really exciting stuff. You've really kind of seen Moline kind of grab a stronghold at the top of the conference. I think overall, they've had the best play throughout the season so far. They've been the most impressive.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. Like you just mentioned, 3rd straight game allowing 7 points or less. This is what we expected this, like you mentioned, but this is what good teams do in these types of games. So they didn't make many mistakes. They were sharp. They were crisp. You let Ponder sling it a little bit, where in other games you rely on Eli Warren and Mark Carey. So allows you to kind of get maybe some areas of the game that you don't always get to. I don't want to say practice, but I think they were able to do some things in this game that they're able to tune up. Let's just put it that way. So a big win for Moline. They're continuing to look great, led by that defense, led by that rushing attack. And I expect them to keep doing that here with 3 weeks left in the season.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, the best game of the week in the Western Big Six, Quincy gets the win 23-21 over United Township. Another heartbreaker for the Panthers. Tell us how this one played out.
Yeah, like we said, this was a battle tied 7-7 at half. UT, another late lead. They led 14-10 going into the 4th quarter, but it was Quincy grabbing that late lead with under 4 minutes left. This was their 11th straight Western Big Six road win. So we've talked to, Moline snapped their overall win streak, but they're still a pretty tough team on the road. UT had a chance, attempted a 39-yard field goal as time expired. Not as time expired, but with about 12 seconds left. That attempt fell short. Greg, this is the 5th loss in the last 2 years for the Panthers by 3 points or less. Mason Dent for Quincy, 112 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Hunter Shuckman continuing to look good, 16-25 for 124 yards, added 60 rushing yards as well. On the UT side, Isaiah Navarrete, 64 yards rushing with a touchdown. Jonathan Drake, 37 yards and a touchdown. 37 rushing yards and a touchdown. He was 7-16 passing for 91 yards and a touchdown as well. So we'll get into this in a little bit, but 3 straight for UT. Still hope to get to 5 wins. I think they will do it.
Yeah, we'll talk about what they have left, and I think that the path to 5 wins is still there, but it's just these last 3 weeks, it's just unbelievable. I mean, like you just pointed out, 5th loss in the last 2 years by 3 points or less. I mean, it's just like it's just a broken record every week. Where I just can't believe we're here again talking about it.
Yeah. 3rd week in a row that they've held a lead in that game or in a game, and they've gone on to fall. Yeah,
we'll talk about it. I think there's still sunny skies ahead for this United Township team.
They'll get back on track this week.
Yep. All right, couple more scores here. Geneseo gets the big win, 38-20 over Galesburg. Green Machine roll up 368 rushing yards on the night. They move to 3-1 in the Western Big Six. You had Harrison Hill, Jackson McAvoy, Mark Nelms, and Kai Weinzerl all scoring for Geneseo. They built a 17-0 lead at half and never looked back. That sets up a critical game this week for the Leafs as they host Sterling. So that's going to be a big one. We'll talk about that in a second. Sterling gets the win 55-13 over Alleman. They jump out to a 41-0 lead at halftime. Maybe not a real surprise. Alleman's been struggling a little bit, but, like you pointed out, for a team to kind of flex their muscle and do what they're expected to do, and Sterling certainly got the job done. Give us some of the details here.
Well, I mean, it's becoming a theme now, right? That they've been playing great football recently. Sterling has. This is their third straight win. They've scored over 48 points in each of those contests. So they're just really, really playing. All 4 of their wins, they've been over 48 points, I believe. Cody Shipman, this one's 2 rushing touchdowns. And you had a freshman backup quarterback, Gavin Tarek, got a lot of playing time, playing mostly in the second and third quarters, went 4 of 5 for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. So good to see some names that we don't normally call getting some quality playing time here. Sterling defense really just shut down what Alleman was trying to do all night. Kyle Bowden had 103 rushing yards and a touchdown for Alleman in this one.
Yep. All right, well, let's get into week 7 here. United Township at Rock Island, Galesburg at Quincy, Sterling at Geneseo, and Alleman at Moline. So I think that, we talked about United Township needing a win, and they're going up against a Rock Island team that's been struggling. So that, you expect the Panthers to get back on track there if they play the way we know that they can. Galesburg, or Quincy, you'd think they'd get the win at home against Galesburg. Moline, you expect to win the way they've been playing over Alleman. That leaves Sterling at Geneseo. That might be the best game, the most evenly matched game of the season in the Western Big Six.
Yeah, I think so. It's critical for both teams. They're fighting for position. I do believe both teams will get into the playoffs. I don't think that will be necessarily a concern, but more than that, just looking at it from a different angle, these are 2 teams that we just have been trying to figure out. And now that we're into week 7, I think we'll finally get an answer, right? Who's better, Sterling or Geneseo? They play similar styles. I think, though, that the way that this Sterling offense has been playing, I think for Geneseo, they have to have a Moline-like performance, right? You saw what Moline did to Sterling and rolled up 400 yards rushing. I think both that Weinzero and McAvoy average over 6, maybe even over 7 yards each per rush. Like, they got to bank on that and just chew up clock, control the ball, to limit Sterling's possessions to try and slow down that really good offense. But on the flip side, Sterling's defense has been pretty good. We don't have to pick this game, and I'm glad I don't, because I don't know who I would pick. I think they're both playing great. Sterling maybe has the advantage, just having won 3 really impressive weeks in a row. But this should be a great game.
Yeah. I think going into the year, I would have said that this is the year that Geneseo gets back in the win column against Sterling. But I think based on what I've seen the last few weeks, it really seems like Sterling has figured something out, or these players are playing with a lot of confidence. And I think now it kind of seems like they both come in on very equal footing. So if you got a coin, let's just flip it and we'll make the pick that way, I think. But I may end up walking the sidelines in Geneseo on Friday, Mitch. That it's a game I think I want to be at for sure.
It's looking at, and we'll get into this again later, they both come in with 4 wins. I think whoever wins this game will go into the playoffs with 6 wins. I think the other team will get in at 5.
Okay, there you go. We'll talk more about that. That's a preview ahead of kind of what teams have left and where they sit now. It's almost like we'll do like a crystal ball revisited. Just a little, peek back in.
It gets a little clearer as the weeks go by. We our predictions from last week could still be holding true, but they will change. Obviously, we could be wrong or we could be right. On this show, we're certainly get a mix of both.
I don't think we're wrong, Mitch. I don't think we're ever wrong.
We're certified ball knowers when we're right, Greg.
There you go.
But only when we're right.
That's right. All right, let's get into the Three Rivers Athletic Conference coverage of the Three Rivers, brought to you by Simulation Sports in Monmouth, Illinois. Visit thesimulationsports.com to book your golf or batting cage time today. So here we go. Let's pull up the scores, Mitch, and read through the results.
All right, let's stay on the Mississippi side. You had Monmouth Roseville taking one more step to that outright conference division championship with a 49-13 win over Sherrard. You had Mendota getting the big win, 45-13 over Kewanee. and Princeton in a tough game against Hall. Princeton gets the win 28-12. On the Rock side, Friday night action, you had Rock Ridge still very much in control of this Rock side. They win 50-7 over Orion. You had Erie Prophetstown with a great win over Riverdale. An exciting game here, 42-36. And then some Saturday action there in Sterling as Newman defeated Mercer County 46-7.
So there you go. Let's get into some of the details here. Monmouth Roseville, like you said, gets the big win. Nick Houston, 2 touchdown runs and a touchdown reception. Landon Montroy had a pair of touchdowns as well. So the Titans can clinch back-to-back track Mississippi championships with a win over Hall this week. So exciting times for Monmouth Roseville for sure. Mendota, 45-13 over Kewanee. This is Mendota's first back-to-back wins since 2021, and only the 4th time in 14 years. So pretty significant, excitement there on a small scale, but just it's got to start somewhere, right? So nice couple wins here for Mendota.
Yeah, it's great to see these sort of streaks, not come to an end, so to speak. But we're talking that it's been a while, and we knew that head coach Jim Eustace was going to bring in a wealth of experience and get this team into shape. So I think this is really the first steps to Mendota getting back into the big picture. So congratulations to this entire program and the community there for kind of sticking through the hard times and being there for these players, and they're returning it in kind on the field.
Yep. So Corbin Farrar ran for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ethan Escatal, a field goal at the end of the first half to give the Trojans all the momentum, and Mendota would end the game on a 28-0 shutout in the second half. So, strong finish there for the Trojans and a lot to be excited about for them in the last couple weeks. So Princeton gets the win 28-12 over Spring Valley Hall. Hall fought to keep this one close. They scored a touchdown to open the fourth quarter, found themselves down 2. They go for 2, but it was Gavin Lanham coming up with a huge stop. The great article by Kevin Hieronymus from Friday Night Drive. And, great effort here from Hall to battle through it and, play tough against Princeton.
This has really been a nice season for Hall. Aiden Redcliffe's been a big part of that. He had a nice night, 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. They were without their quarterback, Dylan Glenn, who went down with an injury, so we hope the best there. But this has been a great, I think, first season under Coach Sterling. They're still in the playoff picture. They still have some work to do, but they have been playing well, and they played Princeton tough.
Yeah. So Aiden Redcliffe, like you mentioned, took over at quarterback, rushes for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the Princeton side of things, they spread the wealth tonight, or they spread the wealth, this week. Etheridge had a touchdown. Junior Aiden Agushi, who we've called out a couple times, he scored a touchdown. Plus sophomores Lane Guskuski and Brennan Emmett also scoring touchdowns. So some sophomores getting in on the action there. But we got the highlight of the night on the ground running the ball. Casey Etheridge, 223 yards, and we have a new record holder. The new all-time rushing record in Bureau County belongs to Casey Etheridge.
Yeah, and this was only a matter of time. We knew that coming into the season he was close, and it was most likely that he was going to break it. And it's what an honor. I mean, passing former Tiger standout Rondé Worrells, who he was there when we first started this show, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the tail end of his career. He rushed for 4,387 yards from 2017 to 2021. And yeah, he was for the last couple of years the all-time leading rusher in program and Bureau County history, and now that belongs to Casey Etheridge.
Yeah, so I saw the list also included Mac Rusetich, who I believe was like 4th or 5th all-time on the list from Spring Valley Hall, now playing for the University of Illinois. So, I mean, 3 guys right there that we've all talked about and covered over the last few seasons. So that's a lot of fun. That's great to follow. Congratulations to Casey Etheridge. And Mitch, I think it's funny because I still remember I believe it was a game on the road at Monmouth Roseville, or maybe it was at home. Either way, he kind of burst on the scene, I think, with 4 touchdowns. Was it as a freshman? And it was just
so.
like, yeah, and it just, caught our attention like, whoa. Like, that was right after Tegan Davis had graduated, or maybe Tegan Davis was there as a senior, but you had just, Rondé Worrells had graduated, so you're looking at kind of the gaps in there and who's going to fill in, and man, Casey Etheridge burst on the scene, and he's been fun to watch.
Yeah, there's definitely overlap there with Tegan and Casey, so
Yep.
I remember calling both. That was a very talented offensive unit there.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, on the Rock side of things, Rock Ridge gets the win 50-7 over Orion, 550 total yards of offense, 435 on the ground, another 115 through the air. You know some of the names here. Cullen Schweigen, 149 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also threw for those 115. He now has 24 total touchdowns on the season. Remarkable campaign from him in his junior year here.
Yeah, another incredible game for Cullen. How about Tanner Dye, 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. Thomas Sowards had 127 yards himself. So this Rock Ridge offense and Rock Ridge defense continue to play really, really good. And now the Rockets can clinch the Track Rock Championship with a win over Mercer County this week.
Yep. So we referenced the 435 rushing yards. I mean, there's some impressive running backs, but somebody's got to be getting the job up front. Somebody's got to be getting the job done up front. How about the Rock Ridge Rockets offensive line, our Godfather's Pizza and Silvis offensive line of the week? Those guys have 2 large one-topping pizzas coming courtesy of our friends at Godfather's in Silvis. Mitch, give them the names that we need to know here.
Yeah, the big fellas up front setting the stage here. Tanner McKegg, Levi Junis, Kanan Mumma, Isaac Bull, Ryan Lower, Jacob Reiser, Wyatt Huden, Garrett Buser, Kyler Goldsby, Hunter Tate, and Trevor McKegg.
Mitch, I think what I find most impressive here is if you remember in our preseason forms or kind of hearing from, Coach Sam Graves over the past couple weeks, that offensive line going into this year was a question that they were having to replace, fill in some gaps. And they also talked about really challenging this group to kind of step up and kind of lead the way. And man, you've seen it in the past couple weeks. You really saw it in this one for sure. Certainly deserving of the award. They deserve some pizza, some Godfather's pizza, Mitch.
And don't feel like you have to stop at those 2 large pizzas. Those are the ones you get courtesy of our friends at Godfather's Pizza Silvis. But be like your week 8 opponent there in Monmouth Roseville. Order some more for the rest of the fellas. Whoever's there, whoever's hungry. We know that they might be a little bit. I remember what team it was that said it was Moline, I think, that said it was a pre-dinner snack. So if we need more pizza, let's order some more pizza there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's get into a great game in the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. Maybe the game of the night in the Three Rivers, but also, Mitch, I'm just going to say it's our game of the week across the board here. Erie Prophetstown gets the win 42-36 over Riverdale. Back and forth. I heard somebody say it on X that it seemed like the last team with the ball here was going to win the game, and it almost was. That almost happened. Riverdale had a Hail Mary attempt with 1 second left on the clock, but the Panthers had it defended, and they leave with a critical victory in their season. Great win for Erie Prophetstown here over Riverdale.
I did not see this coming. I thought Riverdale was going to get the win here. Haven't been impressed with what they have been doing, but also in the back of my head, knowing that Erie Prophetstown's a pretty darn good football team, and I think you heard it best on the instant reacts that this team is too good for moral victories, and this was a really, really good victory for them, and to keep their playoff push alive and well, and now certainly better positioned than they were. So great win here for Erie Prophetstown.
Yeah. Of course, our game of the week, the View from the West game of the week, is sponsored by Nate Neighbor of Modern Woodmen of America. From protection to saving to retirement, contact Nate Neighbor today to put together your financial game plan. He's always a call away at 309-233-2656. Modern Woodmen, touching lives, securing futures. Mitch, give us the rundown on some of the details here. Who led the way for Erie Prophetstown?
Before we do that, may I just say that while I may not have seen any Hollywood celebrities while I was out in California, I was with one, Nate Neighbor of Modern Women of America. So a local celebrity, if you will, friend of the show, sponsor of the show. I was with him on Friday night.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was Friday night, but that entire weekend. Yeah.
There you go. All right.
But back to the game. Hard to find a better performance than Keegan Winkler. Been doing it a lot this year. This was by far his best game. 143 yards on 16 carries with 3 touchdowns. Also 14 of 18 through the air for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. By my math, that's 362 all-purpose yards and 5 touchdowns on the night. Tristan Hovey, 97 yards on 23 carries and a touchdown. Connor Keegan, 7 rushes for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'm guessing?
Correct.
And you had Gavin Adams, 6 rushes for 96 yards.
Well, that sound can only mean one thing, Mitch. When you hear the chime, you know it's our Breedlove's Player of the Week. Congratulations, Keegan Winkler. 362 all-purpose yards, 5 touchdowns. What an effort here. What a performance to lead this Panthers squad to a great victory.
Yeah, just 2 teams going punch for punch, and Winkler was the one throwing the haymakers. So congratulations to him. We'll get with Coach and make sure that we get the address for the school. You get a whole package from our friends at Breedlove Sporting Goods headed your way, full of goodies to celebrate this outstanding performance.
Absolutely. When you get that Breedlove's Player of the Week package, make sure you open it up and share it on social media. Make sure we see it. We love to see it. We love to share in the excitement when you get that award package for sure. So, all right, one more game left here to talk about in the Three Rivers. And this was really close to being the Player of the Week as well. Newman gets the win 46-7 over Mercer County. This was the Matthew Blackard game, and it's really hard to ignore. Man, he was right there as Player of the Week. That's what I'm trying to say. It was a really close vote here. He had 3 touchdowns, a 69-yard rush, a 61-yard punt return, and a 62-yard fumble recovery. So what an effort, what a performance by him to lead the Comets this close, Mitch, to being our Player of the Week.
Pretty sure he forced a fumble too that led to a touchdown a couple plays later. But yeah, Matthew Blackard's been on helmet watch a couple times. Hard to argue with what Keegan Winkler did there at Erie Prophetstown, but this was an outstanding game for Matthew Blackard. He's been having a great season as Newman continues to push forward into their respective playoff push as well. Great win here on Saturday.
Yep. All right, well, let's talk about the games in Week 7. Sherrard at Kewanee, Hall at Monmouth Roseville, Mendota at Princeton, Rock Ridge at Mercer County, Erie Prophetstown at Orion, and Newman at Riverdale. I kind of want to start. Go ahead.
It's a sneaky tough week.
Yeah. In that Rock division, I really want to talk about Erie Prophetstown at Orion and Newman at Riverdale. 2 really good games there.
Yeah, and I think 2 games that you look at from a different perspective just based off what happened this week. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm going to hate picking these games for WRMJ this week because I think we did talk about last week that Erie Prophetstown Orion would be the winner, would be the one of the 2 that go to the playoffs. And I still believe that to be true. And now you've got Erie Prophetstown coming in with a lot of momentum and Orion reeling just a little bit, but 2 dynamic quarterback players, I should say, that are going to be in that contest. Newman and Riverdale, you're going to see a lot of good running backs. So yeah, I'm now going to have to start thinking about who I'm going to pick here and maybe dive into the stats a little bit more, because on paper, both of those games make you think about it a little bit.
Yeah, I'll call myself out here a little bit, because if you remember in the Crystal Ball episode, I did kind of go out on a limb and say that Orion would get this win and that they would get to 5. And now, based on last week's results, man, I hate to be someone who flip-flops. Man, I feel a lot stronger about Erie Prophetstown than I did a week ago.
Yeah, real ones remember, Greg.
I mean, these people could go back and listen. The receipts are out there, so I can't take it back. So, no, good luck to both squads. I think this is a game that it is really kind of a, it's a playoff preview. It's kind of a sudden death type of game, right? So it's certainly a playoff game before the playoffs. So,
and I guess I don't think Rock Ridge is going to lose, but they would hold the tiebreaker over everybody else. So at the moment, Rock Ridge has a share of that Rock Crown, but they can win it outright with defeating Mirco, because their last 2 games of the season, as with everybody in the track, is the last 2 weeks are cross division games.
Yeah, this game, Newman at Riverdale, that has potential to be another game of the week coming out of the Three Rivers Rock division. This could be a great, physical, well-run football game, and both sides can be dynamic, offensive, and pass a little bit, but this could be a really hard-hitting offensive game.
Yeah, I think so. And we'll talk about what Riverdale's got left, because they're still sitting at 4 wins. That loss to Erie Prophetstown didn't knock them back too far down the pedestal, but man, they get past Newman, they could get into the playoffs at 7-2. But Newman, sitting there at 5 wins, they could get their 6th clinching, playoff clinching win here this week. So a lot on the line, I think. A lot on the line in that one.
Yeah. On the Mississippi side, real quick, I think the game is Monmouth-Roseville hosting Spring Valley Hall. Hall competed well against Princeton. Are they healthy? I don't know their quarterback situation. Aiden Redcliffe stepped in and played really well for Hall, but I think you'd certainly be lacking a little bit of a dynamic if you're missing your starting quarterback. I'm kind of curious to watch that one from afar. Sherrard and Kewanee, somebody could get a win there. And then when it's, Mendota's riding a 2-game winning streak, but they go on the road to Princeton. That seems like a tall task there.
Yeah, I expect Monmouth-Roseville to defeat Hall. Even if Hall was 100% healthy, I think Monmouth-Roseville has just been so good week in and week out. I think they have every chance that they're gonna be undefeated at the end of this year. Certainly, the big game will be week 8 against Rock Ridge, but they haven't shown any sign of slowing down. Hall's been playing great, but Monmouth-Roseville is just a whole different beast. Mendota, can they keep that momentum going? Hard to do going to Princeton. Yeah. I think Princeton will bounce back and get another win here. And then Sherrard and Kewanee, just 2 programs having down years. Someone will win this game, and it's good for one of those programs that is going to walk away with a win in a tough year.
Yep. Well, a lot of these teams we'll be talking about at the end of this episode. We'll get into the playoff projections and where these teams kind of fall, at least projection-wise, going into Week 7. So we'll talk about these teams, down the way here in a minute. This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages, Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
At Modern Woodmen of America, service is about more than our members. It's about our community, too. We share values that include personal financial security and helping friends and neighbors in need. We're your partner helping you protect your future, and together we're making an impact here in our local communities. I'm Nate Neighbor. Find me on the Modern Woodmen of America website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodmen representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodmen of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through MWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodmen of America.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
Let's talk some big Northern Conference football coverage brought to you by Byron Wealth Management. Stop by, talk to Sean about financials or football. And again, we say it every week, Mitch, but I think Sean would really like to talk football right now because Byron is playing really well. Let's get into the big Northern scores. Here they are. Mitch, read through the results from Friday night.
All right, you had Byron getting the out-of-conference win over previously unbeaten Dupec, 42-14. You had Dixon with another rout, 55-0 over Stillman Valley. Oregon got the 45-13 win over North Boone. Winnebago defeated Rock Falls 44-12, and Genoa Kingston was a 63-14 winner over Rockford Lutheran.
We'll start with what I think was the most intriguing game from Friday night. It was that non-conference game, Byron going on the road to Dupec. A competitive first half, and Dupec jumped out to a 7-6 lead after one. Byron answers went up 12-7 after a Byron turnover. It was Dupec that would take a 14-12 lead into the half. Byron had missed an extra point, and a failed two-point conversion at the time made you wonder if like those points would matter. But man, second half was all Byron.
Yeah, a 30-0 second half just explosion for the Tigers, which, you know, in the first half we saw Dupec doing
waiting for his
something
personnel.
We got some audio on this video
Here we go.
Left side of that
Go ahead.
line, doing work. He's still on his feet. Into space.
If you're
there
watching
goes
the video
Consi.
now, you can see a big touchdown there from
We're in the end
Caden
zone.
Considine.
Touchdown, Byron.
But in the first half, you saw
waiting
Dupec
for his personnel.
doing something to Byron
Hand
that
off.
hadn't
There goes
happened to them all
Considine
year, and
into
that
the left
was
side of that line.
stop them,
Doing
stop
work.
this vaunted
He's still
rushing
on his
attack.
feet. Into
And
space.
then you
There goes
saw
Consi.
the same thing in the second half, except it was Byron
We're in
doing
the
it
end
to
zone.
Dupec,
Touchdown,
who hasn't had
Byron.
anyone stop their rushing attack. So just a fantastic game here. The score doesn't indicate that at all. But, you know, Byron is proving to be one of the best teams in 3A. We could see this game again in the 3A playoffs, but, you know, the way that Caden Constantine kind of broke out, he had 4 touchdowns in this one. Dawson Criddle had 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So even with a halftime deficit, Byron proved to be Byron, and they come away with a big win.
Yeah, I was really impressed with, you know, Byron, the way they took control of that game. Obviously, what Caden Considine does is impressive week in and week out. I will say, though, to your point, I left impressed with Dupec and the way they fought in this first half to keep it close. And I think that, I don't know, like, you know, sure, the second half got away from them, but I really thought you saw something there that you think, like, maybe they can hang, you know, when they get into that 3A playoff field, because that's always kind of the mystery, right? That at least it has been in years past where Dupec's a great team, but we don't know, we haven't seen them against 3A competition yet. And I know the NUIC is a very good challenge for them week in and week out, but I think I always want to see them against someone in the 3A field. And this was a good test, I think, for them, and I think it does bode well for them coming playoff time.
Yeah, I think they're built for a 3A playoff run. It's just their first taste of that was against a really good Byron team. And again, they've seen them in the playoffs before. They might see them again this year. And Dupec still has a lot of work left in the NUIC. You know, I think they still have Stockton coming up, right? So there is still some opportunity for Dupec to still make a run at that conference crown. But yeah, this was a great game for Byron. They proved that they could have their backs against the wall, and come out of halftime and do what they do.
This is a little tease ahead to the playoff projections. What do you think about Dupec and Monmouth Roseville in the first round?
Oh, I would hate it. Personally.
Okay. I hate it that our two teams play in the first round, but I also love the thought of those two teams playing each other.
They might get over in 48 minutes, but yeah.
Well, I'll be there to get the highlights of it in 48 minutes. That's fine. That game would excite me. And I know, sure, we'd all rather see it in the quarterfinals or whatever. But no, I think that'd be a great playoff football game.
Oh, for sure. In that scenario, it would be exciting. Two really, really good teams built the same way, that have just had outstanding seasons. So yeah, of course I would be excited to see it.
Yeah. Hey, one more quick shout out for Byron. Andrew Talbert committed to the University of North Carolina for baseball. So congrats to him. Great baseball player on top of being a great football player. So we can't wait to watch him play the rest of this football season, but he's got a bright future ahead, on the diamond. So, all right. Genoa Kingston gets the win 63-14 over Rockford Lutheran. This one was never really close. Genoa Kingston picks up the win. They're now 3-3. They're kind of in that cluster in the middle of the Big Northern Conference. This year they have 2 7-point losses to Oregon and to Stillman Valley, and that may end up being the story of their season. 2 one-possession losses because they still have Byron and Dixon left on the schedule. So it's a tough slate when you're looking at 3 wins with 3 weeks left.
But like you just mentioned, this is a good team. Can they play that spoiler? I don't know if they can, but they showed in this game that, again, they're a good team. Adrian Lee set the school record for most PATs in this one, going 9 of 9.
Wow.
Owen Zicard, who we've called out quite a bit, 55-yard run early in the game, set up a Cody Cravata touchdown run. Zicard had 3 rushing touchdowns on his own. Sorry, fumbling my words there. So again, it was a great win for Genoa Kingston. Cogs have been playing really, really tough. It's just unfortunate, like you said, that the 2 losses that maybe now look like winnable games, because now you got Byron and Dixon coming up.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep moving down the way here. Oregon gets the win 45-13 over North Boone. We were hearing that Oregon may have been a little beat up, may have been a little banged up prior to this one, and maybe had some guys sitting out, but that didn't really make a difference. Oregon gets the win in this one. It was 45-0 in the fourth quarter before North Boone got on the scoreboard. So Oregon controlled this one the whole way. For Oregon, Jacoby Donegan, 173 yards and 4 touchdowns. So great effort here from Oregon.
Oregon continues to play really, really well. I think that when I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here when we start talking about playoff pictures at the end of this, but Oregon now sitting with 4 wins, they've got a chance to get to 7-2. And I think that could be quite the story. We thought that they might be that 3rd place team in the Big Northern, and I think that could be the way this is going to play out.
Yeah. Tough night for North Boone on the field, but I did see on X, Sam Ramirez from River Country Radio out of Dixon sent out a video of post-game fireworks after the game. I'm assuming it was homecoming. Some fireworks. He said a fireworks display for like 15 to 20 minutes. So that was cool. It looked really cool. Yeah, right in the end zone. It looked great. So shout out to North Boone and the fireworks after the game. So
that's right.
All right, couple more scores here. Winnebago gets the win 44-12 over Rock Falls. Cooper Larson ran for 138 yards, 3 touchdowns for the Indians. They ran for 277 yards as a team. They pick up their 2nd win of the season, and Dixon gets the win 55-0 over Stillman Valley. So Dixon shuts out another Big Northern opponent for the 4th week in a row. Man, Dixon is really playing some great football right now, Mitch.
Yeah, in those 4 weeks, they've outscored their opponents 229-0.
Wow.
Just an unbelievable job by the Dukes after that loss to Byron. Yeah, and they're just playing incredible football. So for Dixon, Landon Carnegie, 205 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jagger Kemp had a rushing touchdown, I think a passing touchdown as well. Owen Belzer scored again. Kemp was 11 of 13 for 120 yards with that touchdown and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So this Dixon team just continues to impress. They look really good. Landon Carnegie, I'll be hard to be corrected that he's the best player in this conference, truthfully. And that's no disrespect to Caden Constantine. Carnegie just his numbers are really, really impressive. But like we just mentioned, 229-0 the last 4 weeks. Dixon is on cruise control right now.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough debate. End of the year, we're talking Player of the Year type awards here. That could be a tough one. But
Yep.
Hey, shout out to Tanner Wilhelm, our big Northern Conference insider. We really appreciate every week, Mitch. We're getting texts, updates. We're getting emails at the end of the week, kind of summing everything up for us. So I just want to give him a shout out. I really appreciate it. Helps us get the info we need to know to bring it to you every week. So, all right, week 7 in the Big Northern. Byron at Genoa Kingston, Dixon at Winnebago, Oregon at Stillman Valley, North Boone at Rockford Lutheran, and IVC on the road at Rock Falls in a non-conference game. So I think we talked about, Genoa Kingston, they're hosting Byron. It's a tall task, the way that Byron's been playing, but it's one of those games, you need to get, it's one of those games you want to get because if you want to grab, a couple more wins this season.
Yeah, no doubt. They're just fighting for that playoff spot, but boy, Byron coming in, that'll be tough.
Yep.
I think the eyeballs go to Oregon at Stillman Valley.
Yep.
I think that this is a chance, like we just said, for Oregon, because I think they've got winnable games in week 8 and 9. If they can get just a little bit more momentum and get in at 7-2, I think that would do them well. For Stillman Valley, they're on the outside right now with 3. I think they could also win out. So let's just say that I think whoever wins this game will win out their other 2 games with some serious momentum going into the playoffs.
Yeah, so a lot on the line there. That's kind of the game that grabs the headlines there for the Big Northern. All right, let's get into the Lincoln Land Conference, talk about all things LLC from week 6 and look ahead at week 7. Let's pull up the scoreboard for the large side of things first. Mitch, give us the scores from Friday night.
All right, you had Knoxville getting the 32-22 win over Illini West. West Hancock getting the nice win, 42-34 over Elmwood Brimfield. You had Bureau Valley picking up their first win of the year, 44-6 over LVC. But the big one of the night in the LLC Large, battle of the 2 unbeatens. There's only one remains. Farmington wins 30-16 over Macomb.
So we talked about it on the Instant Reacts. We had Toby Vallis on the Instant Reacts. Go back, listen to that if you haven't heard it already. Great interview from him. But the battle of unbeatens, Farmington wins it. They scored twice in the fourth quarter, led off by an electric 85-yard bubble screen from Carson Noy to Jackson Gronwald to give Farmington the lead. We got the video. Let's pull it up here.
Is caught.
It's just,
20,
remarkable
30,
the way that he takes the pass,
40,
gets the pass and is able to
50,
go down the sideline, fight through defenders.
Farmers
like you said,
are gonna go
85 yards. This
all
was
the
right
way
after Macomb had
and
scored
return
to
it.
grab the lead
Touchdown,
and seemingly
Farmers.
grab some momentum. And it's Farmington striking back again. And they weren't done because then Landon Crawford has a pick 6 on the next Macomb possession. Crawford would add a second interception to put this game away. Coach Vallis was really excited about Landon Crawford and his efforts here defensively to really kind of seal the deal and win this game for the Farmers.
Wow, absolutely. And as great as that play was, that you showed Jackson Gronwald and his breakaway speed, certainly getting the pass from a freshman quarterback in that situation says a lot about this program. But yeah, Landon Crawford with that pick 6, just eliminating any chance of Macomb to fight back and regain the lead, and then certainly gets another one for good measure to put the game away. So I still think people are sleeping on Farmington. It happened last year.
Yeah.
I was suckered into picking Rock Ridge in that game. I knew I shouldn't have done that. And I think we're going to have that similar conversation this year. I've been so impressed with Farmington all year. They just continue to win. This was their, on paper, their toughest test. On the field, it certainly was as well, I guess. But they come out the same way they came in, undefeated and in control of this conference.
Yeah, this one really showed me something out of Farmington. I've really been impressed with this Macomb team. And so I think that I knew this was going to be a great game, but I leaned towards Macomb being at home, and I just thought that this was the game that, Macomb was set up to win. So impressive efforts here by Farmington. And, My bad. Shouldn't go against the Farmers, Mitch. I should have learned.
Well, we'll get into that two-way bracket projections right now, but like I just said, I think we're going to have that similar conversation with Farmington based on how or just depending on how things shake out with where Wilmington's going to get seated. I think Farmington is poised to make a run.
Yep. All right. West Hancock gets the win, 42-34 over Elmwood Brimfield. A balanced attack from the Titans here. West Hancock get a big win, an important win for them in their season. They finished the game with 498 yards of total offense, 281 on the ground, another 217 through the air. Chandler Dadant paced the West Hancock effort with 242 yards and 2 scores. Braden Carter went through 10 for 15 for 217 yards and 2 scores as well. This West Hancock group has been a very explosive offense, and it just felt like you were waiting for them to grab a big win. This is a nice win. We'll talk about what they have down the way, but I think this win was very important for them.
Yes, it was, and not to spoil it, but I think they're going to get in at 6-3. So this was a very, very good win for West Hancock. This was tied. Elwyn Brimfield tied the game at 36 on a Miles Algar TD run with about 7 minutes left to play. But it was West Hancock's Jess Scott found Pater from 3 yards out. West Hancock would hang on from there. For Elwyn Brimfield, Miles Algar finished the game with 196 yards and 4 touchdowns. So a really, really great performance for him. With an Elmwood Brimfield team that I do believe will get into the playoffs, and they're still going to be a formidable opponent because they have been playing really, really well this season. But this, on any given Friday night, this was a great win for West Hancock.
Yeah. Knoxville gets the big win, 32-22 over Illini West. A big win because it brings Marty Turner's squad to 4-2 now, and we'll talk about what they have down the way, but that could be a critical win there over Illini West. You also had Bureau Valley getting their first win of the season, 44-6 over LVC, like we talked about. Storm get their first win for head coach Pat Elder. Dane Stewart and Brandon Carrington each scored twice for Bureau Valley, and Keenan Richter and Dylan Howlett scored for the Storm as well. So great to see Bureau Valley kind of jumpstart their season here and grab a victory.
Congrats to Coach Elder and that program on their first of hopefully many wins.
Yep. All right, let's hit the scoreboard for the LLC small side of things. Give us the results, Mitch.
All right. You had Princeville getting the 42-8 win over Rover Williamsfield. A-Town got the 34-27 victory over South Fulton. Rushville Industry defeated United 54-18. Havana got the forfeit win. They did not play. But the big one of the night, heading into it and coming out of it, Anawan Weathersfield 48-7 victors over previously unbeaten Stark County, as Anawan Weathersfield now in control of the LLC Small.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pull up the highlights here, Mitch. I was really impressed with Anawan Weathersfield, seeing them in person for the first time this season. They take control of the LLC Small side of things. They're running away with this one, literally. I mean, they ran for 407 yards. No surprise. It's what they've done week in and week out. Maddox Heitzler, 138 yards, 3 scores. Devin Orey added 143 yards and 2 more scores. And Nick Thurston scored as well. I just really impressed with kind of the triple threat that they have there in that backfield.
Yep. Yeah, 3-headed monster of a backfield. And this is a team, Greg and Kyle had kind of asked Coach Grip this. This is a team making some serious noise heading into the playoffs, and they have not been challenged, even against good opponents. Been really, really impressed with what the Titans have been doing.
Yeah. Check out this run, Mitch. Look at that. Look at that leap over the defender.
Little, as you texted me, a little Garrett Barnes-esque there. Not going to go that far, not taking anything away from Maddox Heitzler, but I'm going to keep my walls up on that discussion. But, whether Maddox keeps it, whether Devin gets it, whether Nick gets it, I would hate to be a defensive coordinator against this team. It's just so tough. Whoever gets the ball is going to gain yards. They're just going to chunk play after chunk play, and they're going to wear you down. And you saw this against a Stark County team that was undefeated and looked really good. And Anna Weathersfield just never lost control of this game.
Yeah. Another critical victory here in the LLC small side of things. Abingdon Avon gets the 34-27 win over South Fulton. So that is their second win of the season. But, man, they've played a lot of close games this year, and they come away with the win here against South Fulton. So congratulations to the Tornadoes. They got a couple games down the way that potentially could be winnable, but I think they're going to end up falling maybe a little short of a postseason berth, but, a nice win here. So you also had a couple other big wins for Rushville Industry and Princeville. Rushville Industry, 54-18 over Monmouth United. And hey, we just talked about the rushing attack of Anawan Weathersfield. How about Rushville Industry? The Rockets continue to run the ball effectively.
35 rushes for 467 yards.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable job. Rylan Reimold's 162 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sebastian Berteau, 141 yards and a score. Landon Meyer had 2 touchdowns on 106 yards as well. Reimold's closing in on 1,000 yards on the season, now sitting at 893 with 13 touchdowns. Also, Greg, found this nugget in the notes. Rushville Industry has a player named Mitch Armstrong. He is now the View from the West player of the show. We'll say it like that. Our new favorite player.
Yeah.
Mitch accounted for 2 tackles and a sack against United.
Maybe we'll have to get Mitch Armstrong on the Instant Reacts pod some night. That seems like something that's got to happen.
There you go. I can guarantee you there's no Greg Stormer. I know that. So,
okay.
Yeah, shout out to Mitch Armstrong. And shout out to this Rocket group, really playing well.
Yep. And Princeville, 42-8 over Roval Williamsfield. Princeville holds Roval Williamsfield to 40 total yards. So very 40. Impressive effort there from Princeville. Caden Sarnes, a name we've become familiar with, 224 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns. So the Princes playing well with Anawan Weathersfield coming up. So we'll get into it here. And we also mentioned Havana had the forfeit win over Westmont. So here we go. LLC large side in week 7, Macomb at Knoxville, West Hancock at LVC, Illini West at Bureau Valley, Otto Marquette, the non-conference game at Elmwood Brimfield. On the small side of things, Havana at A-Town, Princeville at Anawan Weathersfield, South Fulton at Monmouth United, Rushville Industry at Stark County, Farmington at Roval Williamsfield. So we'll start on the large side of things, Mitch. What catches your attention there?
Let's see. You're the Crusader alum. What is Ottawa Marquette looking like this year? What is Elmwood Brimfield going to have to get over to beat Marquette here?
So yeah, Marquette just lost to an undefeated Seneca team, 43-26. The game kind of got away from them. I think Marquette hung around early, but ultimately I think Seneca proved to be the better team. So against a really good Seneca team, they lost. They also, like we said, earlier in the season, they lost pretty handily to Aurora Christian, who's now sitting at 4-2 as well. I don't know that their other loss was to this Edgar, Wisconsin team who's 7-0. They're a defending state champion out of Wisconsin. They lost 9-6 on a last-second field goal. So that's kind of hard to decipher what that really means. I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game. I think Elmwood Brimfield maybe has a little advantage being at home, but they're going to have to, show up and play tough. Because this Marquette football team, they're well coached. They're going to execute. They're going to keep coming at you. So I'm curious. It's very similar to what Elmwood Brimfield's going to do. So I'm very curious in that one. I think that Macomb and Knoxville game, Knoxville hosting Macomb, the Blue Bullets are 4-2. I think Macomb is still the favorite in that game, but Knoxville's playing well right now. Can they keep it rolling?
I think just going back to the Elmwood Brimfield Marquette game, I think that's a must-win for Elmwood Brimfield because they've got Macomb in week 8, and then a sneaky game there in week 9 with Illini West, which Illini West could be playing for a playoff spot then too. So I think this is a must-win ball game on the large side for Elmwood Brimfield.
Yeah, I mean, you ask me, I really don't know how to read that one. It's a tough call, right? I mean, this 3-3 Elmwood Brimfield team, maybe not the record we thought they might have at this point, but there's a lot of talent there, and it's a well-coached team. We see it every year. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of this one. So, what about the small school side of things, Mitch?
Well, it's Princeville going to Ann Arbor Weathersfield.
Yep.
I think that's, that should decide this conference. Princeville's been playing tough. That we just talked about how good their defense has been super impressed with Caden Sarnes this year. He always is putting up great numbers, being that dual threat quarterback. But can they do the same against the best offense that they'll see in Ann Arbor Weathersfield? I don't personally think so, but I'm curious from a Princeville perspective, looking ahead to their playoff outlook. I don't believe that they'll win this game. I think Ann Arbor Weathersfield will finish out undefeated, but can Princeville show the state something in this game that will make you believe that they can make a run in the playoffs? Because I think that they can. They're that type of team. But would it also surprise me if they're the ones to upend Ann Arbor Weathersfield? No, it won't at all. I'm going to stick to my guns there and say that the Titans are going to win this game. But on this small side, I think that's the one that sticks out the most. Rushville Industry at Stark County should be a good one, too.
Well, that's the game I was going to mention. Stark County is in the middle of a gauntlet here, right? They lose to Ann Arbor Weathersfield. They got Rushville Industry at home this week. They got Princeville at home in week 8. So the top 3 teams that we thought coming into the year, and they got to play them all back to back to back. So it's a tough stretch. What can the Rebels take from a tough loss, in Anawan at Anawan Weathersfield last week? Can you learn from it? Did you see something in that to kind of, wake you up, or to see like, okay, here's what it takes to compete at the top end of this conference? I don't know. I'm interested to see, because even when you get through those divisional games, they still got Knoxville on the road in week 9. So it's for a 5-0 Stark County team, it is a really tough stretch here at the end of their season. So, you gotta hope that you can take take something out of the loss and learn from it immediately, because it's a tough stretch.
I was just looking this back up. Without looking, Greg, how many points has Ann Arbor Weathersfield given up this year?
Oh, man. I am not looking. Let's go with 65.
53.
Wow. There you go. That's impressive.
Just about, was it 9 points a game? So, this Princeville team has the second most points scored, second to Ann Arbor Weathersfield. But by and large, this Ann Arbor Weathersfield defense will be the toughest that Princeville has played. But Princeville also has the second lowest scoring against in the conference. So this will be a great game, regardless of the score goes who wins. This will be a good football game, I think, on Friday.
This is Dan Pearson of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Our FCA team of staff, board, and volunteers is pleased to support View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Our Northwest Illinois FCA team is 3 teams in 1, serving coaches and athletes in the 3 Rivers, Northern Illinois, and Greater Peoria areas, all with schools covered by View from the West. For more information, email me at danpearson@fca.org. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni, and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together. You can find me in my Byron office until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful, and memorable high school football season.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high, each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfathers is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
All right, let's talk some Northwest Upstate Illini Conference. Let's pull up the scoreboard, Mitch, and give us the results from Friday night.
All right. Another week down in the NUIC. You had Stockton, top team in 1A, defeating Galena 30-12. We talked about that Byron crossover. Byron getting the win over Dupec 42-14. EPC getting a big win over Forreston 51-24. Fulton getting their first win of the year 55-14 over Dakota. And Lena Winslow all over Morrison 46-7.
So there you go. Stockton gets the win. Blackhawks remain unbeaten and on top of the Class 1A rankings. Jack Benzendijk scores 3 times, rushes for 142 yards with the win. Hard-fought battle here for Stockton in a rivalry game. They scored a touchdown in every quarter. So consistency and just a tough offense to contain. They get the job done there.
Only one touchdown was my point there. It was like 8-8, 6-6.
Okay.
Or whatever, however that math works out. So yeah, you said it best. A very consistent performance from Stockton. They shut out Galena in the first half, and that gave them enough room there to come away with a big win.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about an impressive victory here. Eastland Pearl City, 51-24 over Forreston. EPC back in the playoff push as they get past a Forreston squad that we kind of, caught our attention the week before when they won over Galena. So go figure. The NUIC goes back and forth and one team wins, then one team loses, and here we go. So Draven Zier ran for 182 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also added a kickoff return for a touchdown. So he's back, certainly like a couple games in there where, he was kind of bottled up, but he explodes out in this one. Just really important win for Eastland Pearl City.
Yeah, I mean, they led 30-0 at one point in this one. That was early in the third. So great performance from the Cats. Again, you kind of started to think, is EPC going to be the team that might not get in? Now I believe they will, but they've got Stockton coming up next. So we'll really get a test as to how back Eastland Pearl City really is, because I think if they're playing at their best, they can go toe-to-toe with anyone. And we'll see if they can do that against Stockton.
Yep. All right, couple more games here. Lena Winslow, 46-7 over Morrison. Mitch, what I took away from this one, we talked a lot about the speed on Lena Winslow and the speed on Morrison. Did you see the play that was shared on X this week? The two of the fastest football players or fastest athletes in the state in Alex Schlichting for Lena Winslow and Brady Anderson of Morrison. Just a remarkable play that Lena Winslow's track and field team shared from the coach's video. You see Anderson tracking Schlichting down the sideline. Schlichting escapes and goes cross field, and you think he's going to break away for a touchdown. And Brady Anderson's closing speed is remarkable. Chases him down, trips him up at the goal line. Schlichting scores, but just a remarkable effort. And I mean, legit, 2 of the best athletes in the NUIC, 2 of the fastest players we've seen in a long time. It was a cool play.
Well, and certainly you say 2 of the fastest. I would say that Brady Anderson is the fastest.
Well,
I think his track resume backs that up a little bit. So, and look, it's been a tough year for Morrison. It's been a tough year for Anderson. I think he had negative yardage rushing in this game, and certainly that's a credit to Lena Winslow. But you can see that on this video that Coach Rickles had shared, you can absolutely see the type of athlete that Anderson is. And even in a down year, he's going to give it his all. And not many people can come from 10, 15 yards behind Schlichting and catch him. And it certainly didn't stop him from scoring, but he did get him right there at the last second. Schlichting had to kind of fall into the end zone. So just, a fun play against 2, like you mentioned, 2 of the best athletes that we cover in this conference. We'll see this battle again on the track in the spring.
Yeah, I saw him make a play I saw Brady Anderson make a play like that when he was a freshman or a sophomore against Erie Prophetstown. Brady Anderson chased this kid across the field and just, I mean, there was no one in sight. And all of a sudden, Anderson's there to bat the ball away at the goal line as he's about to score. And I think it ended up being a touchback. It was an impressive play the same way this one was. So, like you said, it's been tough going for Morrison, but Brady Anderson is, legit super fun athlete to watch. So, Fulton, one more game here. Fulton gets the win 55-14 over Dakota. Steamers get their first win of 2025 after jumping out to a 41-0 lead at halftime. Freshman Wyatt Connor ran for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns, all in the first half. Braden Myers, 6 for 7, 152 yards and a score. So this Fulton group has had a tough year. It's certainly, they started on the tougher end of their schedule. They appear to be healthy now, and I guess the question is, can they finish the season on a strong note here?
Yeah, I think the hope is that they can make the most out of these last 4 weeks. I don't know that they'll go 4-0. I'm trying to remember who they play in week 9, but I do think that they can defeat Hazel Green, Wisconsin this week. That Morrison game for the wooden shoe, very much a winnable game for Fulton. So now that they're clicking a little bit and you're seeing some new names pop up and really putting in these good performances, like you just mentioned, the freshman Wyatt Connor, I expect Fulton to finish the year out pretty strong.
The wooden shoe is clicking. Is that's the pun you were intending?
No.
Anyway, all right. We already talked about Byron getting the win over Dupek 42-14. Let's look at week 7, all bad jokes aside. Morrison on the road at Dakota, Dupek at Forreston, Galena at Lena Winslow, Eastland Pearl City at Stockton, and as he referenced, Hazel Green Southwestern comes to Fulton. So, I mean,
five good games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Five good for different reasons. 5 really good matchups here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, very equal matchups across the board. We saw, wasn't it Galena that gave Lena Winslow a close game last year?
I believe it was. Yeah.
Yep. So that's Galena goes on the road to Lena Winslow in that one. But this Eastland Pearl City team that we just saw with the huge win over Forreston going on the road to Stockton, I'm intrigued by that one. And, Forreston looking to bounce back. They got it to both teams, Forreston and Dupek, looking to bounce back in that game with Dupek going on the road to Forreston.
Then we talked about it a little bit. I don't remember what game we were talking about, but or we talking about it in the track. We're talking about it with Kewanee and Sherrard. Morrison and Dakota having just down years. These are 2 programs that have won multiple state championships in the last, 20 years. So tough year. One of them's going to get a win. That'll be exciting for one of them if they get some momentum going into weeks 8 and 9. And for Fulton too, we don't know a ton about Hazel Green. Expect Fulton to be competitive in that game, maybe even pick up a win, and they have a chance to get a couple wins here after that slow start to the year.
Yep. Yeah, that's intriguing matchups all the way across the board. And what else would you expect from the Northwest Upstate Illini at this point in the season? And I think,
exactly.
Listening to Kyle, I think Kyle's excited because now with kind of the way things are shaking out, there's potential that 6 teams from the Northwest Upstate Illini get in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of my point on EPC, where it was kind of looking like maybe they're not going to get there. And then because I think the expectation was maybe that Forreston would have won that game. But then EPC came right back and showed that they're a pretty darn good football team and a potential playoff team at that. So this could be the year they get 6. Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Should we move into 8-man football, Mitch? And we'll get through 8-man, then we'll pull up the projections from the 8-man playoffs, and then we'll get into the playoff projections for 1A, 2A, and 3A, courtesy of our friend Kyle Kattmeyer, who we just talked about at NUICfootball.com. He does a great job doing his own research, really putting in the effort and his knowledge to project kind of what the playoffs would look like based on what we know and what we think's going to happen the rest of the way. It's kind of his own crystal ball in some aspects. So he is
and it's usually pretty clear.
Yeah.
Kyle does a fantastic job with his playoff projections. He's usually right on the money. If you follow the NUIC football Facebook page, he's having to explain the differences between seedings and rankings, and he's the all-knower on all things playoffs. So Yeah, well, we're more than happy to use his projections because they'll be just about as close as anybody can be.
Yep, and we really appreciate it. We'll get those in a second, but let's talk through 8-man scores, Mitch, from Friday night.
Yeah. If you're old like me and you can't read that screen, I'm going to read off my other page.
Okay.
You had River Ridge defeating AFC 52-12. Milledgeville got the 54-28 win over West Carroll. It was Polo over Orangeville 54-8. West Central got the win 26-18 over Galva. Ridgewood put up 70 on Bushnell Prairie City, 70-12. Amboy defeated Peoria Heights 68-0.
You talked about River Ridge there getting the 52-12 win over AFC. Caden Bauer, 108 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He also had 288 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Shout out to Caden, great game. And also, Mitch, he always posts his stats and tags us on X. So we appreciate it. We can keep updated with this River Ridge squad and with what he's doing on the field, thanks to his post. So I would encourage any athletes, go ahead and tag us with your stats from each week.
Do.
Yeah, we love it. We absolutely love it.
Please do.
So, couple other games here. Milledgeville 54-28 over West Carroll. Great game here. I really like what West Carroll has, but I think I also have been very impressed. No doubt about it. Milledgeville is, I think, the best team in 8-man football right now moving forward. Spencer Nye finishes with 4 total touchdowns. Nye also rushes for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns. Caught 2 as well. So 4 total, 2 on the ground, 2 receiving. Connor Johnson had 3 catches for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also returned a kick for a touchdown. Kyson Francis, a name we've become familiar with, 7 for 11 passing, 149 yards, and 3 of those scoring touchdowns. So Missiles now 16-1 in their last 17 home games, and they've scored 50-plus points 10 times. Thank you, Brian Stocking, for that nugget.
Yeah, that's the Stocking gold that we've come to know and love there. Always serving it up on Fridays. How about West Carroll, though? Aiden Buckholz finished on 27 carries, 160 yards, rushing 2 touchdowns on the ground, and added a 31-yard touchdown pass. So, like you said, West Carroll certainly has the weapons to be a really, really good 8-man team, and they are a really good 8-man team. Just when you're going up against Milledgeville, it's hard to kind of compare that, because I agree with you. I think this is the best team in 8-man. They're playing like it, and I expect that to continue.
Yep. Polo had the convincing win over Orangeville. Mercer Mumford 6 first-half touchdowns as Polo rolled to a running clock. Mumford started with 4 rushing touchdowns. Then he caught 2 more touchdown passes. He had 133 yards through the air, 174 total rushing yards on 11 carries. So Mercer Mumford, the newest Mumford that we're talking about, he continues to impress.
That sounds like a Mumford from Polo if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, exactly. West Carroll, like we talked about, got the win. Ridgewood got the big win. Spartans rushed for 444 yards, 459 total offensive yards with 70 points, like we talked about. Gavin Franks, 245 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, Mitch, let's pull up the 8-man bracket, the projected bracket, thanks to Kyle Kampmeyer from NUICfootball.com. So here we go. Here's a look at the I-8FA playoff projections. Mitch, we're really high on Milledgeville. They come in at the number 2 seed. Kyle has them projected at 8-1. So looking down the way, I'm not sure if he thinks that the game they'll go on the road to North Shelby, Missouri. Obviously, I don't know much about North Shelby, so maybe he thinks they're going to lose that one in week 9. He has Pawnee projected as the number 1 overall seed at 9-0. I've seen a little bit about Pawnee, read a little bit about them. They were a semifinal team a year ago, so they've really impressed me. They're off to a great start, obviously this season being undefeated. I think on that side of the bracket, they could really make a run here. Maybe West Carroll, maybe West Central, or possibly like South Beloit, but I think it's Pawnee that can go if this bracket holds up. The other side of the bracket, that's where a lot of the fun comes in on our side of things with a lot of teams we're familiar with.
Yeah, just looking up real quick, North Shelby does appear to be undefeated, and at least according to Max Preps, the 4th ranked team in the state. So pretty formidable opponent there. I'll say Milledgeville's going to win that one, and they'll come in undefeated. I don't know if that would switch their ranking or not. So for the sake of the conversation, the sake of how things look right now, and again, I'll take Kyle's expertise over mine. So we'll just go with it. If this were to play out right now, as it sits on the screen that you're looking at, or if you've seen it on social media, I think that South Beloit and West Carroll game there in round one would be really good. I would expect to see Amboy and Polo going up against each other in the quarterfinals. I think we could potentially get a rematch of last year's state championship in Amboy and Milledgeville in the semifinals. And on that other side, Pawnee's had some great seasons. I think this could be the year that they get through, but South Fork has looked good if they can get past West Central and then either South Beloit or whomever might come through there. But in the end, I still have no reservations that I think Milledgeville can win a state championship this year.
Yeah, it's exciting, but it always seems to fall that they're going to have to get through that gauntlet, on one side of the bracket, especially if these projections hold. It's Milledgeville, Polo, Ridgewood, Amboy. You go through the list on our side of the state, teams that we think are maybe the toughest, to get through, and they're all right there. So it'll be fun to follow along with. So there's kind of a look at 8-man. Again, we thank Kyle Kampmeyer from NUICfootball.com for his I8FA playoff projections. We got plenty to talk about on the 11-man side of things. So, Mitch, before we get into the projections, let's kind of read through. Let's do a little level setting, set the foundation of where we're at, what teams have how many wins, and kind of what we got. We'll talk about teams that maybe excite us as we move forward, teams that we think have a lot of potential. But let's start with the teams that are locked in. There's 6 wins and they're ready to roll here. They're going to be in the playoffs and potentially a really good seed.
Yep. So like you just mentioned, these teams are locked in. In 1A, you've got Stockton and on Wethersfield. In 2A, you have Rock Ridge and Farmington. And in 3A, you have Byron and Monmouth Roseville. Those are teams with 6 wins at the moment.
Yep. So they are locks. They're in. Let's look at teams that are qualified. So 5 wins. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're qualified at 5 wins, still looking to kind of fight for some seeding and moving up the bracket a little bit. Who we got here?
Yep. So in 1A, you've got Lena Winslow, Stark County, and Princeville. You've got Newman sitting there at 5 wins, and they're kind of on that bubble of 1A and 2A. We'll see where they fall. 3A, you've got Dupec. I believe Macomb is 4A. Is that right? Along with Dixon. They're both 4A programs there with 5 wins. And Moline sitting in 7A at 5 wins as well.
So those are the 5-win teams that have qualified. They're also going to be playing potentially on a Saturday, maybe a Friday night game, but they'll be playing in week 10. But this is where I think it gets more interesting. Let's go through the list. We'll start with kind of the next up, the 4-win teams.
Okay, you've got Knoxville, Forreston, Eastland, Pearl City, Erie, Provincetown, and Riverdale. Let's start with those couple there.
Okay.
Again, Knoxville, Forreston, Eastland, Pearl City, Erie, Provincetown, and Riverdale, all sitting at 4 wins.
So I guess if we want to start with teams that kind of stand out to us as the ones that are going to get that 5th, maybe 6th win. I would say Erie, Provincetown, and Riverdale. I think both could get 5 or 6 potentially.
Yeah, let's just go through that. So Knoxville, they've got Macomb, Marquette, and Stark County. So 3 really quality opponents there for Knoxville. They've got a tough, sled here. I don't expect them to beat Macomb. You kind of talked up how good Marquette has been playing. And then Stark County, who was previously unbeaten. So I do think they will get to 5.
Yep.
I don't know that they get to 6, and I don't know where that 5th one comes, but I do believe Knoxville will get to 5. Going to the NUIC with Forreston and Eastland Pearl City. Both of these teams have they have a hard 3 weeks. Forreston's got Dupec this week. I do not expect them to win that one. Leroy's having a down year. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just going to look it up. Leroy's, well, they're sitting at 3-3. They were 0-3, and now they've won 3 in a row. So I will say the wins they've gotten in the last couple weeks, they've kind of had a tale of two schedules here, where the first 3 weeks was undefeated Ridgeview, Lexington. Then they had Downs, Tri-Valley, and Gibson City, Melvin, Sibley. So really quality first 3 weeks. And then they've played Fieldcrest, who's 1-5, Central A&M, who's 2-4, and Fisher, who's 1-5. So it's kind of been a tale of 2 seasons here so far, but they are at 3-3.
Yeah, I think Forreston could come into that game a little bit more battle tested and ready. So I think Forreston can get a 5th win there. I don't expect them to get it over Dupeck or Stockton. For Eastland Pearl City, I think they're going to sweat this out a little bit. I don't think they'll beat Stockton or Lena Winslow, but I do believe that they would beat Dakota in week 9 and get to 5. So certainly they can get in. Erie Prophetstown, I think they will get in this week to get to 5. I think they'll get their 6th automatic qualifying win in week 8. And they could make a run at Princeton too. Erie Prophetstown doesn't have a 0 chance of winning out this year the way that they played. If they play the way they did this week, I think they could do it. And then Riverdale, I think they will win at least 2 of their next 3 games. This Newman game, I think I'll side with Newman on, but with Hall and Sherrard there to end the season, I think Riverdale will be sitting at 6-3 going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Newman's a really good football team, like we've talked about a lot, but what an opportunity for Riverdale hosting Newman, and man, what a story that would be, right? If they could come up with this win to get their 5th win against a program like Newman, and that's no disrespect. That's the ultimate respect for how much I think Newman is playing right now and playing really well. That should be a great football game like we already discussed. So, all right, let's get into, we got Oregon and then the Western Big 6 teams. Let's read through them here.
Okay, so you've got Oregon, Geneseo, Sterling, and Quincy as kind of the next group of teams with 4 wins. So let's start with Oregon there in the Big Northern. Stillman Valley, Winnebago, and Dwight.
Yeah.
We talked in the a little bit here in our preview that Oregon Stillman Valley, I expect that to be a really good game. I think Oregon has a shot to win out here.
I do too.
I don't think Dwight's having a great season. I think Oregon can win out at the very least win 2 of their last 3. If Stillman Valley gets that win, I don't expect Oregon to lose to Winnebago or Dwight.
Yeah, I think they're set up good. Yep, I agree with you there. I think that's a schedule they can handle here the rest of the way if they play their brand of football. So I'm excited to see that play out for them.
And if they're healthy.
Yep, that's a big part of it. This Western Big 6, man. This is
oh God.
So let's get into it. Geneseo, Sterling, and Quincy. Geneseo has Sterling this week, so that's a huge matchup. Then they have Alleman, and then they have Quincy. So obviously, then you have Sterling, who plays Geneseo this week. They have Quincy, and then they have Rocky. And as process of elimination, you have Quincy, who plays Galesburg, Sterling, and Geneseo. So they are all going back and forth, and it is going to be a real mess.
Can I just cop out and say they're all going to get at least 5?
I mean, I think it could play out that way.
Each team has one bona fide win. Geneseo, I fully believe will beat Alleman in week 8. That would get them to 5. I believe Sterling will defeat Rocky in week 9. That would get them to 5. And I think Quincy wins this week against Galesburg. That gets them to 5. Then everything else is just funky. For the sake of this conversation, I will say, and this again, I don't remember what I said last week, so this could go against whatever I said. I think Geneseo will get into the playoffs at 5-4. I think Sterling gets in at 6-3, and I think Quincy gets in. They also get in at 6-3. I think all 3 get in. Get in for sure. So I guess that would mean I believe that Sterling is going to beat Geneseo this week. I guess that would also mean that Quincy would win. So Quincy and Sterling would get in at 6-3. Geneseo would be the team that gets in at 5-4, with their 5th win being that week 8 against Alleman.
I'll go out and say I think Geneseo gets this win at home.
Okay.
So then I think that they have their 5th.
So then they would be the 6-3 team.
Correct.
Sterling You think Quincy? You think Quincy would beat Sterling? You think Sterling would beat Quincy?
I think Sterling beats Quincy. I think Quincy loses twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if I'm layering them up, I think Geneseo's the top, Sterling's in the middle, Quincy's the third. Does that make sense?
Okay. I think Sterling and Quincy go in at 6-3, and Geneseo gets in at 5-4.
All right. So there we go. Yeah, I think that.
So I think every team we talked about there with 4 wins, I believe will be playoff teams.
Yes.
No, I don't believe anyone is going to be sitting at 4 and 5.
There you go. Yes. If you followed along with all that, boy, good luck following the rest of the way, because that's kind of what it's going to be like.
Yep, clear as mud.
Exactly.
Clear as mud. Crystal ball is full of dirt.
All right. A lot of 3-win teams and a couple 2-win teams I didn't want to leave out of here. So let me read through all of them, Mitch, and then I'll let you kind of pinpoint a couple of them that you think, you're excited about. So 3 wins. So they're kind of on the outside looking in. They got to win some football games here, obviously. You got Galena, Elmwood Brimfield, West Hancock, Havana, Genoa Kingston, Stillman Valley, North Boone out of the Big Northern, Princeton, Spring Valley Hall. You have Orion also down there at 2 wins when we're talking about the track. Illini West has 2 wins. United Township in the Western Big Six has 3 wins. So there's a lot in there. Like I said, a couple 2-win teams in there, but a lot of 3-win teams. Looking at what they have left, give me a couple teams that catch your attention.
I think West Hancock wins out.
Yep.
I think United Township wins 2 of 3. They'll get in.
Okay. Yep. They have Rocky, Moline, and Allman left. Yep.
Yeah, I think they will fall to Moline in week 8. There's a bit of a wrench in Galena just with how Fulton, how they looked against Dakota. I know that's not a huge bar, but they will most likely be sitting at week 9 at 4-4. And that'll be a must-win for Galena to get into the playoffs. And with Brimfield, we talked about, I think that's a must-win this week for Marquette. That would get them to 4. I think they would be favored against Illini West, but we'll talk about Illini West in a minute, sitting there at 2 wins. Don't see a path for Genoa Kingston.
Nope.
I just think it's too much.
Yep.
I don't see a path with Spring Valley Hall. They've got Monrose, Riverdale, and Rock Ridge left.
Yep.
Princeton.
I think they win out.
I think they will win out. North Boone. I don't think so.
Nope. And I'm
Stillman Valley. I think wins 2 of 3. I think they lose to Oregon, but they win 2 of 3.
Yep.
Yeah, and Genoa Kingston, I just don't see it. And then Havana's a bit of a toss up in that forfeit win, but I think they can win 2 of 3 there and get in.
Well, this week seems huge for them. We talked about A-Town.
Yeah.
A-Town's 2-4, but they've played a lot of really close games. So this is a critical game, obviously, for Havana, because I think that you want to get these 2 wins and get to 5 before you play Rushville Industry in week 9, for sure. So it's a critical stretch there. Illini West is interesting. 2 wins on the schedule right now. They got
possible.
They got Bureau Valley, United,
it's possible,
and Elmwood Brimfield. Yep. It's good. I think it's going to come down to week 9. It's Yeah.
I believe that they will defeat Bureau Valley this week. I think they will beat United in week 8, and then it just depends on if they have that same hunger they did last year trying to get into the playoffs. They could do it. I believe will knock out Elmwood Brimfield. So that week 9 could be a battle of who gets in.
Yep.
And then you've got Orion sitting at 2 wins.
And that's an interesting one.
There's a path there too. They have to win. There's no doubt about it. They have to win this week because I think that they will win against Sherrard and they will win against Kewanee. and that would get them to 4. So that would make this Erie Prophetstown game their only chance to get to 5. And they could do it. They absolutely could do it. The way that EP just played, though, they're going to have the momentum.
Yeah.
But it's possible. Orion is not out of it yet.
Yep. Well, Mitch, I'll let you pick. We get into the playoff projections, get into the bracket talk here. We're pushing 2 hours, but we're still going to talk some brackets before we're done. You want to start?
We can get it done. We can get it done in 2 hours.
You want to start in 1A or 3A?
Well, that was going to be my precursor. Like, we're only doing 1A through 3A. Those are Kyle's specialties. So certainly we have teams in the 4, in 5, 6, and 7. But for the sake of this conversation, we're using Kyle's projections, and that will just be 1 through 3.
Yep.
So let's just start at 1.
All right, let's start at Class 1A. The Class 1A playoff projections, courtesy of Kyle Kampmeyer. Stockton, the number 1 seed on the north side of the bracket, projected to be 9-0. On the south side of the bracket, the number 1 seed, Arthur Lovington, Atwood Hammond, also projected to be 9-0. But Mitch, let's start on our northern side of things, the schools that we cover. What matchups stand out to you? What do you see in these brackets here?
Well, and again, this is how it looks heading into week 7. Things will change. Kyle is projecting forward on this and how he thinks the rest of the season will play out. We're going to get a lot of matchups, Greg.
Yeah.
So far, if you're not following on YouTube, or if you haven't seen it on social media, this is how it looks right now in Kyle's mind. You would have number 1 Stockton playing number 16 Stark County. He has Stark County coming in at 5-4. So what a way that would be to start your season 5-0 and then lose your next 4, and then you get Stockton in the playoffs. Princeville as an 8 seed going up against Hayworth. Clifton Central as the 4 seed up against 13 seeded Knoxville getting in at 5-4. Rushville Industry would get DMAC. You would have Anawan Weathersfield coming in undefeated against a Galena team. That would be quite the matchup.
That's a fun one.
Round 1.
Yep.
Lena Winslow getting Chicago Crane. That would be a win for Lena Winslow. He's got Newman in the 1A playoff. I think that's important to note. That would be a Newman Forreston first round matchup. That would be great. And then GCMS and Ottawa Marquette there at the bottom of the bracket. So yeah, there are plenty of good first round matchups. But then if you were to look as who we might think would win those, you'd get some really good second round games. You could potentially get Stockton and Princeville. You could get Knoxville and Rushville Industry. How about Anawan Weathersfield and Lena Winslow in the second round? You could get Newman and GMCS for the second straight year, or you get Newman and Marquette, old, Big Rivers rivals. So as expected, the 1A North is going to be incredible football, not taking anything away from the South, because there are some really good teams on that South side of the bracket. But for my money, the way this looks right now and the way it will look in 3 weeks, the North is going to be an absolute gauntlet for anyone to get through.
Well, I think the important thing for us is that Lena Winslow stays on the bottom half of that bracket and Stockton stays on the top.
Correct. You wouldn't see you. Can you imagine that? Once again, getting a NUIC semifinal.
It would be awesome. Yeah. I hope that they stay on separate sides of the bracket. Man, we talked about it a few weeks ago, even with Lena Winslow and Newman both in this 1A field, and Newman is right on the edge. They could go 2A, but man, I secretly hope they stay 1A, because I really want to see Newman and Lena Winslow play. Or Newman and Anawan Weathersfield down the road.
That would take a couple rounds, but you, in this projection, obviously, you could be looking at Anawan Weathersfield and Lena Winslow going up in the second round.
Yeah. Yep.
And that would be a blockbuster.
Yeah. Looking quickly before we go into 2A, looking on the south side of the bracket, like we said, the top seed, Arthur Lovington, Atwood Hammond, they were a good team a year ago. They're back. Kyle has them projected at 9-0. I've heard a lot and read about KZ Westfield. They're sitting at 8-1. They'd be the 4 seed in the middle of that bracket. Brown County at the 5 seed. I've heard a lot about, excited about them. They just fell short against Camp Point Central, who Kyle has projected as the number 2 seed in the South, being 9-0. You also have Hardin Calhoun, 8-1. Greenfield Northwestern. Tuscola down there as the 3 seed at 8-1. So Anything there that catches your eye, Mitch, or what teams do you like to kind of make a run down here?
I think this will be Camp Point's year again.
Okay.
Been impressed with Brown County. They would be separate from CPC. They just played, but Brown County has been really, really good. I think that the South will run through Camp Point Central. I don't think that's a super stretch. I think just looking at where their matchups would be, they would be favored pretty much every step of the way until maybe you get to the semifinals. Then that they would face either an Ala or a Casey Westfield or maybe a rematch with Brown County. But man, in any way you slice this 1A, it's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah. How about a potential Tuscola Camp Point Central in the quarterfinals? That'd be a fun one.
There you go.
Seems like Tuscola's playing some really good football right now. And similar to the Northwest Upstate Illini, on the south side of the bracket, you always got to look for those WIVC rematches, right? When you're talking Greenfield Northwestern, Calhoun, Camp Point Central, Brown County, Carrollton, it's all of those that you're going to be looking for those rematches because they play really high-end football as well. So, all right, let's see what Kyle has projected in Class 2A. Rockridge, the number 1 seed on the north side of the bracket, he has them projected to be 9-0. So, Mitch, I think you and I thought that they would come in at 8-1. He has them going 9-0, defeating Monmouth Roseville.
Not ready to predict that yet.
Okay.
I wouldn't, at the moment, I wouldn't think that would be true. I do think Monmouth Roseville will win out. He would, in this scenario, though, he has Illini West coming in, sitting right now at 2 wins, getting in at 5-4.
Yep.
You could get Rock Ridge and Tri-Valley in the second round, which that was a second or third round game a couple of years ago.
I believe so. Yep.
At least it wasn't last year, but he's got Riverdale getting in here into the 2A field. We'll be playing El Paso Gridley. And this is where the seedings and the rankings come into play, because he's got Farmington at a 5 seed at 9-0.
Yes.
They would have West Hancock in round 1. Can you imagine a Farmington Riverdale second round game? That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That, in the way that is set up, that would potentially get us Farmington and Rock Ridge once again in the quarterfinals.
Yep.
That I would be happy with. There
you go. I will say
go for it.
Upset alert. Eastland Pearl City coming in at 5-4.
I knew you were gonna go there.
Against a 9-0, potentially 9-0 Ridgeview Lexington team. We've seen that play out before with the NUIC coming in at a battle tested 5-4. I think that's a potential one there.
A potential second round matchup. You could have Seneca going up against unbeaten Westville in the second round. So yeah, I think the big thing on this would be Wilmington as a 6 stays south.
Yeah.
Or on the bottom side
of the bracket. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yep.
And then you could potentially not, a team like Rock Ridge or a team like Farmington wouldn't have to worry about seeing them until the semifinals.
I would agree with that. Yep. You want the bracket, same way we want the bracket split for Lena Winslow and Stockton.
Yeah. On the south side, I think a potential big game in the second round, if you get Maroa Forsyth and say Nashville.
I think
in the second round,
I would say Nashville. I like Nashville this year. I would say them in that second round game. I really like Maroa Forsyth, though. I think they're the team on this whole south side bracket that should be playing in a state championship game once again.
Yeah, and it could come down to the Achilles heel for Maroa Forsyth last year. Get some windy conditions, get some cold conditions, get them out of their, out of their element a little bit. That's kind of plagued Maroa Forsyth, right? They've been to a lot of semifinals. They've been a lot of state championships. They haven't come away with a ton of titles, but they're always right there. So I expect them to do nothing less than the same this year. So again, I think the action is on the north side. I think the champion comes from the north side. just like I do in 1A. And yeah, the way that Kyle has these projected out, there'll be some surprises here in the next 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So, all right, 3A bracket. Let's get into it. You got Richmond Burton as the number 1 seed on the north side of things. Bloomington Central Catholic, interesting that they would go to the south side of the bracket. I think they're always kind of on the border if they're going to go north or go south. I think that'd be a big break. I think I'd rather see that just to kind of divide up some of this talent across the board. You got Richmond Burton, like I said, the number 1 seed on the north side. IC Catholic as an 8 seed projected at 7-2. Going up against an Oregon team at 7-2. Some other teams from our area, Princeton at a 12 seed at 6-3. Byron, the number 2 seed. No surprise there. But then down the way here, Mitch, how about... Go ahead.
So Kyle's got Monmouth Roseville coming in at 7-2. Would that be assuming that they lose to Newman and Rock Ridge?
I suppose. Wow. Yeah.
Boy. I don't know, Kyle. I don't know. But like you kind of alluded to earlier in this projection right now, it'd be Tupek and Monmouth Roseville in the first round. But I don't believe Monmouth Roseville will be 7-2. I don't think that at all.
Yeah.
In this scenario, you keep IC Catholic and Byron separate until the semifinals. I do believe those are the 2 favorites.
Yep.
To get through. And then on the other side, you have Bloomington Central Catholic and Althoff on opposite ends of the bracket. So yeah, this 3A, I think more than the others is where you get more into the seeding versus ranking discussion. Especially with IC Catholic as an 8 seed, like that's kind of absurd. Not saying Kyle's wrong. I'm just saying it's absurd how that works. Because I think Richard Burton's really good. I don't think they're IC Catholic good. And IC Catholic would maybe play either a Bishop Mack team or even a Princeton team in the quarterfinals before they would face up with what I would expect to be Byron. So yeah, 3A should be fun because you have teams on the opposite ends of their brackets, so they wouldn't meet up until later.
Yeah. I think when you look at the 3A bracket, I think there are obviously the heavy hitters in those, top couple teams that we think in the Byron, IC Catholic, potentially Richmond Burton. I think you see those teams as the best of the best on that north side of things. But the south bracket really has a lot of depth. When you're talking about teams from the Illini Prairie, I think they come in battle-tested like Monticello. You saw them make a run to a state title game last year. St. Joe Ogden, Tolono Unity. Obviously, the top seed in Bloomington Central Catholic, who Kyle has projected at 9-0. I think there's a lot of depth in this 3A South bracket. I haven't even mentioned Williamsville, who's always kind of in the mix, and then Althoff Catholic hiding out down there as that 11 seed at 5-4.
In this scenario, he would have Chicago Hope beating Bishop Mack. They play in week 8.
Yeah, I knew there was a matchup with them coming up. So,
and I was just looking at Chicago Hope because looking at them at that schedule, looking at that record at 6-0, and then looking at their schedule, man, they've played one team with a winning record.
Okay.
And Bishop Mack would only be the second team their whole year that they play. Wheaton Academy's 3-3, but not a real tough schedule for Hope in their first kind of taste of 3A football. So I don't know if that would factor into their projected game against Chicago South Shore. I don't think it would because it never does. But I wouldn't think that in this scenario, if it was Dupek or even if it was Monmouth Roseville, I don't think Hope would pose a challenge to either one of those two teams just based on the schedule that they've played.
Yeah. So there you go. There's the brackets. Thank you to Kyle Kampmeyer, NUICfootball.com. Mitch, that was fun. And it's going to be fun the next couple weeks to really see kind of the small tweaks along the way. And what I really love about kind of the way the IHSA system sets up is one win or one surprising loss along the way can disrupt the whole thing. Not just, a 1A school loses and it disrupts the whole bracket all the way up to 8, or vice versa. So I think it's a lot of fun, and Kyle Kampmeyer and Steve Susi know it as good as anyone around the state. With one small thing can create a ripple effect across the whole thing, and it's a ton of fun to follow this time of year. So I love a little bracket talk.
Yeah, and we went through those teams that have the 3 wins, and those are the teams that shake the whole thing up. And whatever we think is going to happen, or whatever Kyle has projected to happen, it might not, and then that creates an entirely new projection, an entirely new bracket. Teams are going to shift. So in the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a lot of that. So whatever we just talked about tonight, it's not going to be the same thing we talk about when the brackets get released. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to debate and go back and forth along the way and see how it all plays out. But I want to thank everyone who listens. Mitch, thanks so much for grinding through this. I think we're pushing over 2 hours here, and you might still be jet lagged from your Hollywood adventures. So I appreciate your effort grinding through it here.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely still jet lagged from that. But yeah, this is the fun part of the season. I mean, we got 3 weeks left of the regular season. There is still a lot to shake out. When we talk to you guys next on Friday for the Instant Reacts, I do believe we'll be crowning 2 champions in the Rock. I think we'll get a little bit closer in the other conferences, but just they won't be finalized just yet. But since the track goes out of conference or out of division the last 2 weeks, we'll know those conference champions when we're talking to you on the Instant Reacts.
Yep. So there you go.
And maybe, Greg, because I had this conversation with someone else earlier today, if Rock Ridge were to win and if Monmouth Rosa were to win, we get the coaches on, but we get them on at the same time because they play each other next week.
Oh, now there's an idea. There's a light bulb idea there. I love that idea.
Yeah. So that that's a game that won't have any implications on the conference, but for both respective, they'll be in different in classes for the playoffs, but that will really shift the rankings as to who won that game. Yeah. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, there's a good one. All right. Well, that's a little tease ahead to the Instant Reacts. Of course, join us Friday live at 10:15. We'll have coaches' reactions. We'll have the scores. We'll have the highlights. Everything you need to know from around the area in week 7 and how it all plays out. And then the march is on. We are right on the doorstep of the playoff show. Kyle Kampmeyer, that's a great reminder. Kyle Kampmeyer is going to be hosting his 9th annual playoff pairing show. I'll be live out there again in the NUIC studios. We'll be breaking it all down. Kyle has a good cast of characters, a cast of experts who know 8-man football, 1A through 3A. We talk about all of it. It's such a fun night. That'll be live on YouTube on the Saturday night of pairings.
When you're doing that, I always have that show up. But for me, I am in like the most hectic graphics mode of my life.
Yes.
I'm trying to see these brackets just both from my, personal interest in it, but also to find the matchups and see who got in and what they're seeded and such. So while you're on that show, given your expertise, I am grinding in the command center, trying to get graphics out and, trying to keep up with it because it's a fast-paced night. So Should be a lot of fun.
Yep. One more reminder, of course, the Breedlove shop is still open. If you're listening to this on Tuesday or Wednesday, that Breedlove store is still open for a short amount of time. Wednesday night, October 8th, at the end of the day, that shop will close. Get out there, get your View from the West merch before it's gone for this season. Like Mitch said, it's getting into hoodie weather. Go out and get yourself a good hooded sweatshirt, wear it to a game, show it off to us. We'd love to see it. But we just appreciate everyone who listens, who follows along. Like we mentioned, Instant Reacts will be back on Friday at 10:15. That's the next time we'll talk to you. We'll be back again in this studio on next Tuesday to break it all down and talk about what's coming next. So thanks to everyone who listens. Thanks to everyone who subscribes. Mitch, we'll talk to you again on Friday. That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor. viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.